Tom Hanks doesn't really want crying to be part of baseball, but it is. We're just emotional beings. It's just kind of what we do. And not everyone. I will say there are some women who are much better at not crying than others, but I've coached women, I've been around women. You're going to have people who cry, and it's not because they're weak. It's just because it's the way that they emote. So my advice for coaches: bring Kleenex, listen, don't fix, but just let them have their emotional expression, whatever way it comes, whether it's in tears or if it's in laughter, whatever. But a lot of girls really just need this emotional release. Okay, and Kristen talked yesterday about this kid that did a study that got in the New York Times. I'm pretty sure this is his study, I don't know. But this is actually a follow-up sort of survey to what was done in Michigan several years ago. The findings are still the same. The reason that girls play sports is to have fun. And it needs to be fun for them. And part of what's fun for them are the relationships. Here's the whole study. The number 9 reason that they play sports is to win. So that's important for coaches to know. When you're wanting to win, coaches want to win, the kids don't. Well, they do. They want to win. But not to the same degree that the coaches do. Their main purpose for being there is to have fun. And up there, too, is to make friends. Because that's why they play. And we need to make sure that we keep that in mind. It's them that we're coaching. If we have our own agendas, it's only going to go so far. You have to remember what it is, the people you're coaching, what they need. Okay. They stay involved in sports when they feel like they're getting better. Now, notice if they feel like they're getting better. Even if they're really not getting better, as long as they feel like they're getting better, they're going to stick with it. And sometimes, you all know, kids develop at all sorts of different rates. You can have a kid that was doing absolutely nothing physically for a long time, hit puberty, and then they just explode with strength and speed. And if you can continue to let them be excited and passionate about what they're doing, and they feel like they're getting better, they're going to stay with it. If they've got good social connections, and if they're having fun. Those are the 3 main things that girls need so that they can continue to play. Red flags. Okay, there are cliques on teams. Don't be terrified of this, because it happens, and it's just that aligning, that group, wanting to be part of a group. This is the natural tendency of girls. There's going to be cliques. And there's an idea of the queen bee thing, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. All right, this is a picture of my daughter's team. And we had a phenomenal, very impromptu kind of team bonding day. And I always braided my daughter's hair before games. I would braid one side, and then the other side, and put the helmet on. Well, I was braiding one side, and a mom came up and started to braid the other side. And so then all of a sudden we realized we had 6 girls in line to get their hair braided. So we then braided all the girls' hairs, but these 2 did not want to get their hair braided. So instead they took a hockey sock and put it on their head. And this one just wanted to keep wearing her colorful band. She didn't want to take it down because she didn't like the way that her hair was that day, so she didn't want to do the braids. Some of the girls on the team wanted to make a big deal about the fact that the 2 sock heads did not want to get braided. So I made a big point of being, it's okay that they're sock heads. Actually, sock heads are very cool. And it's not like we're versus each other, the hat heads and the braids. We all are, I think that the hat heads, that's very awesome. So if tomorrow if you want to be a hat head, but you celebrate it, you don't make a big deal about it, let them have, okay, those 2 It's interesting to note that the 2 that decided not to were line mates. They had been all year. They kind of had this alignment thing going on. But, you don't make a big deal about it. You let them figure out where they're supposed to go, observe it. As long as it's healthy and as long as the cliques are positive and they're nice to each other, there's no reason to intervene. They don't all have to be friends all the time. Now, this is interesting on hockey teams because, like my daughter's team, we had 3rd graders up through 6th graders. So we had some that wanted to have the flavor of the day thing going on, and we had some who wanted the BFF thing. And so monitoring how they were relating to each other in the locker room, and just as long as they were kind to one another and they were respectful and they were okay with the dynamic, it works. But it's a matter of kind of keeping a pulse on this. This is important. These things happen, and I think paying attention to it is super. It's an observation that I've made having played and coached. There is a potential, and a really kind of dangerous potential depending on how this goes, for girls to dominate and aggressively dominate teams. And sometimes it matters if their mom is like this, and the 2 of them together can be incredibly destructive to a team. So you just need to pay attention to how this dynamic is working. And there, often it happens, I think, with sports if the girl is generally pretty physically talented. If she's a goal scorer and she gets a lot of attention from the coaches, it kind of like builds itself. So my suggestion, their strong personalities come, okay? And aggression is part of this. The way that aggression looks for girls is very different than aggression looks for boys, and that's why it ends up being really uncomfortable for people. The guys get mad at each other, they duke it out, and they're done. This is not the way it works for girls. Girls, in their aggression toward one another, they are very sneaky. They do it behind everybody's back. They do it with snide comments. They do it with that friendship revocation. They take away friendship. Like, I was your BFF, but not today. That's the way that girls bully one another. And it can be incredibly destructive to the team, but it's even more emotionally destructive to the girls that these things happen to. So if you have a queen bee kind of personality that seems aggressive in her tendencies to want to tear down other people, and like I said, it's sneaky, so you kind of have to pay attention. If someone says something to you about, you know, Sally's being really mean to me today, take it seriously. Listen to what it is that she says she's doing, and the way that you intervene is not probably what you think. If you say something to her about stop being mean, that's not going to work. So this would be more my suggestion. If you have this idea of wanting to be more of a team player, and you see Sally or whoever that, I don't know, hopefully there's not a Sally in the room. Is there? Okay, good. It's because she's my mean girl today. If you see or hear Sally say something kind to her teammates, she gives them 5 at the right time, just explode with reward. Like, oh my gosh, Sally, so awesome that you were so good at recognizing your teammates when you scored that goal. And if you see her do something positive, reward the heck out of it. Let her know this is the kind of behavior that we really think is awesome. So if those sorts of dynamics start to happen, combat it with positivity, and I'm going to talk about that positive. I knew I needed to throw this slide in, but I don't have an answer, and I know that this was the big question yesterday about what to do with the girls on the boys' teams. I grew up playing basketball with boys up through 6th grade because there weren't any girls' teams for me to play on, so I know what it is to be part of a boys' team. It takes a very special girl to be able to play with boys, and that's just the reality of it. If they can handle the dynamics of that being the only female in a male team, you got to make it by a case-by-case basis. Now, for coaching purposes, when you're coaching teams that are co-ed, or you need to know what I've told you about how girls work, but you still coach to the team. And the team building, the team bonding, those things are about the same. You respect your teammates, you play for your team, you talk about those team concepts don't change regardless of who's on your team. But paying attention to whether that girl really does have the stuff to play in a team of boys, if there are options for her to play in a girls' team, weighing each of those on a case-by-case basis. That's my best advice, and I know that you guys are all working on trying to figure out how to make this. I don't know that I have the best answer for this, but I do know that it deserves special attention, because not all associations are, have the numbers to make full teams of girls. Does it matter if the members of the team like each other? It does. We all know that there is a very real thing about team chemistry, and there's a lot of people trying to figure out, okay, what is the magic bullet? How do you make chemistry happen on a team? I found one study that I thought was really interesting, and this was about the NBA. In 2009, these 3 guys watched NBA teams at the beginning of the season, and they counted how many times the guys gave high five, pat on the back, some sort of physical positive connection, and they were able to predict which teams were going to do well, and they were right. The teams that had the higher number of positive physical communication did better. Now, you wonder, okay, so are they doing the high fives because they're already doing well? Like, yeah, we're scoring a lot more points, so we're giving them. I don't know that, but you can control the high five, the positive communication, that part you have control over, and I really believe that leads to that positive end, too. And we need positive experiences. Girls are really about much more than X's and O's. You guys know this. It is the context for their social relationships. It forms their identity, good or bad, so if it's a good experience, it helps with their identity as people. And this is something that I think is just important to know. I just learned this a couple weeks ago. Girls in the age group of 10 to 14, in the last 5 years, their suicide rate has jumped to 300%. And that's a really scary statistic. I'm not going to even guess about what might be going on. I would probably throw social media in there for part of it. But I think it's important to know that this age group of girls, it's vitally important that they stay part of a team, that they have positive experiences when they're a part of a team, because it's going to help them through this really, really difficult time. the benefits they get for doing it, they're more physically healthy, they have better grades, their psychological health is higher, they have a better social life, they have career boosts once they're all finished playing sports, in society as an overall, we all benefit from this. And this Kristen spent a lot of time yesterday talking about those gains. Okay, knowing how girls work should change how girls' teams are built. Team build with the team you have. You are youth coaches and administrators. You get what you get. You don't have the luxury of the elite national team that you can pick the players that you have. So you need to team build with what you have. And that means that you value and you accept each player exactly how she is. Celebrate the differences among them instead of looking for and only celebrating that, you know, this person's a goal scorer, you're awesome, you're great, but not, and then negating the people that are the other girls that aren't necessarily your high scorers. You have to celebrate each one of them for whatever it is that they bring to the table, and they all have something to offer. Be challenged to help them complement each other. How they work together, telling them, you know, you are a phenomenal line because you're really very good at skating fast, and you have such amazing stick handling skills, and you, whatever it is that each one of them have as their gifts, celebrating that so they can see how they're going together. And these are low. I can see people are looking over. Take time for individual building so the links are stronger for the entire team. If you know more about those individual keys, the big key for the team comes together. Know your bench. You ask a lot of coaches who your best left wing is, that's fast, it's off the top of their tongue. You ask them who plays piano, who's struggling in school, how a player sees herself. Those are harder questions, and they take a lot of energy to learn the answers to those. And I get it. It is hard. There's a lot that's expected of coaches. You're expected to be the tactical, the strategy. You have to have strategy. You have to plan your practices. You have to do all of these things. And now I'm telling you to add in this emotional piece. But this is vitally important, especially when you're coaching girls' teams. That's why it matters. Because when we play sports, we are laying ourselves completely vulnerable. And if we're not accepted when we do that, and we don't feel as though our efforts count for something, then we give up. And it's so important that when you lay yourself out like that, that someone says, you know what, I love that you tried as hard as you did on that, and I so appreciate that you're giving everything you have to